Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Mail Bag, the all mailbag show here on AMC Movie News, where all we do is take your mailbag questions. My name is John Campia. I am the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News, and I'm really glad you decided to make this little show part of your Saturday. Now, for those of you who don't know, AMC Mailbag is a much more laid-back, relaxed kind of, we'll talk about some things here on this show that we won't talk about on AMC Movie Talk, and we look behind the scenes a little bit, we talk a little bit more informally about stuff, just sharing thoughts, and a couple of friends just talking about movies together, and what better thing is there to do for film fans than to talk about movies? It's been a pretty good week. For me, we had a lot of stuff going on. We've had like set visits happening, a lot of great interviews. I was really excited, actually, this past week. As many of you know who watch AMC Movie News, Movie Talk, or whatever, one of my absolute favorite shows, or favorite movies, I should say, of this year was Captain America, The Winter Soldier, which I just thought was incredible. I mean, I not only is it a great comic book movie, it is one of the best movies of the year. And you can say that about a couple comic book movies this year. I mean, Captain America, The Winter Soldier, X-Men Days of Future Past, of course, Guardians of the Galaxy. Not just great comic book movies, some of the best films of the year. And Captain America, The Winter Soldier just blew me away because it really was like a political thriller as much as a comic book movie. And it's just a very special film. And anyway, earlier this week, we had the Russo brothers, the directors of Captain America Winter Soldier, and the directors of the upcoming Captain America 3. They actually came into the studio this week on AMC Movie Talk and chatted with us about Captain America 2, but also a little bit about Captain America 3, which was a lot of fun. So that was very, very cool. Wednesday night, every couple of months, me and the whole AMC movie crew gang get together. And we go out, and we did that this past week, where we don't often get all of us. Like, there's 10 or 11 of us now. So we don't often get the chance to get all of us together all at the same time. And so we had a crew meeting this past week talking about our plans for the last part of 2014 and our plans for the first part of 2015. And I can't wait to share a lot of that stuff with you guys. And then we all went out to eat together, and it's just always a good fun when a good time when you get together with the gang. Anyway, we are going to get into it today. And by the way, thank you so much. As you know, if you watch AMC Mailbag regularly, you know that last week we started doing some beta testing with the call-in feature, where not only did we take mailbag questions, but we also tested with a new system where you guys could phone in anytime and leave a voice message, and we were able to play your voice messages on the show, play your calls on the show. And I think there were a lot of very good things about it. I think there are some things that we need to improve, but this was just a beta test. And thank you guys for participating in that, and all you guys who called in, thank you so much for your help with all that. So with all that out of the way, we are going to get to question number 1 today. And the first question today comes to us from Garry Hasara, who writes, do you think Disney is saving the Age of Ultron trailer to premiere it in front of Big Hero 6 this November? It's a good question. I mean, here's the thing. We have kind of adjusted ourselves more and more to expect movie trailers earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier. Like, I remember that you wouldn't expect a movie trailer to come out till about 2 months before its release date. And now it's like you can be half a year away from a movie coming out. You can be like 6 full months away from the release date of a particular movie. And if a trailer isn't out, you'll have a whole bunch of people asking, what's wrong? Well, wait a minute, we're almost at the movie. Why is there no trailer out yet? You know, it's just really funny as a film fan to see how we've progressed or degressed, if you want to put it that way, from not expecting a trailer till just a few months out to now, if there's not a trailer out like a half year in advance, we start to worry about it. And we've been dealing with stuff about, Star Wars, Batman vs. Superman, and now Age of Ultron for a while now, about people asking for the past 6 months, when are they putting out a teaser? Why isn't it a teaser? And, we on AMC Movie Talk would just be like, guys, take a deep breath, relax, plenty of time till the movie. They don't want to blow their proverbial load too early on their marketing and stuff like that, and getting that all going. And, you don't want to jump the gun, essentially, and all that kind of stuff. You don't want to put marketing out too soon. But even I have to admit that now we are starting to get into that time frame with modern big blockbusters that maybe we could reasonably start pretty soon to think about and maybe start expecting the first teaser to drop. Because we're in September now, so October, November, December, January, February, March. We are now in that 6-month window. Now, remember, they did show a sizzler of some kind at Comic-Con this year. So that was there. And they did show that. So I expect that probably sometime in the next 6 to 8 weeks, we will probably see that sizzler now make its way online so we can all see what everybody at Comic-Con saw. But the question you bring up is actually a pretty interesting one. It's like, will Disney use Big Hero 6, which I believe comes out in November? Will they use Big Hero 6 as the big launching point for the Avengers 2 Age of Ultron trailer? Well, okay, so we're in November, so then December, January, February, March. Then we're only 4 months away. I'm going to say no. Do I think we will see an Avengers trailer in front of Big Hero 6? Yes, but do I think it's going to be the first one? I don't think so. Like I said, I believe we're going to see something sooner than that. Now, don't forget, we've also got that other Disney film, Alexander and the Terrible, No Good, Awful, Pathetic, Terrible, Awful Day. I can't remember the actual bits. Alexander and the Terrible, No Good, Awful Day, or something like that. The one with Steve Carell, Jennifer Garner. It's like that. That's also coming out. And I think that's coming out the month before Big Hero 6. Now, whereas Big Hero 6 as a film makes more sense to launch a trailer like Avengers Age of Ultron, they might want to get a few more weeks of a jump on that, and they might actually release it. I wouldn't be surprised if they released the trailer with Alexander and the Terrible, Awful, No Good Day. You know, every time I say the name of that movie, it's going to be a different wording because I can't remember the full title. Anyway, so I think it's more likely that we'll probably see it in front of that film, but it could also be something completely different. Remember, there's nothing that says in a movie, an upcoming movie has to premiere its trailer in front of one of the same studio's films. That's not always the way it works. It's quite often not the way it works, as a matter of fact. So it could play in front of something else. Big Hero 6 seems like the most likely fit, but like I said, it might be just a little bit too late, because then we're only 4 months away for the big first trailer. But here's the bigger question that I've been asking myself for the last couple of years. You know, back when The Phantom Menace came out, right? And the first trailers for Star Wars The Phantom Menace, the first Star Wars film in eras, was finally coming out. Back in that day, you could count on more people going to the theater. I mean, there were movies that had no business selling out just so people could go in and see the Star Wars The Phantom Menace trailer. They were buying their movie tickets. This was really happening. People were buying their movie tickets, going into a movie they had no interest in, seeing the trailer for Star Wars The Phantom Menace, and then leaving. That was the era. But, so, I mean, putting a certain... there was a short window of time in Hollywood, like in history terms. There was a short window of time when putting a certain trailer in front of a movie could actually increase ticket sales to that movie. So that became a part of the strategy, I think, for a while. But I really feel like we're past that era now. I think that era is past. Because, you know, there was even a smaller window in Hollywood for a while when a trailer would drop in the theater and then like 3 or 4 days later, it would hit online. And then it was like a theater would drop a trailer on a new movie. And then like 24 hours later, that trailer would drop online. But today, we seem to be in an era now. The window we're in now seems to be this era of the trailers drop online before they ever get to theaters. Like, honestly, like I've seen now trailers drop online like weeks before they actually start playing in theaters. Now, normally it's shorter than that. Normally it's like the week of that a trailer will drop in theater, it'll hit online, or just a few days before, or just 24 hours before. But the point is that as opposed to being in a state where people need to buy, if you want to see a trailer and be one of the first people to see a trailer, instead of having to go buy a ticket to a movie you have no interest in seeing, we now live in an era where you're going to see the trailer before it ever plays on a big screen in front of another movie. So with that being the case and that being the era that we're in now, is it really even that big of a consideration now? Like, where do we premiere the trailer? Which movie? Because I think there was a time when that was a real strategy session for studios. Okay, they look out the pieces on the board like Nazis looking at a table war map, moving the pieces, their tanks around and thinking, what do we do? I can totally see that there was an era when studio brain trust would sit around and think, okay, now, where do we release the trailer? Which movie do we release the trailer in front of and all that kind of stuff? But I just don't know that that's part of our reality anymore because of the fact that these trailers now hit online. So look, getting back to your original question, if it's, asking, okay, what movie will premiere in front of, I think the most sense is Big Hero 6, but I have a feeling it might more likely be The Alexander and the Awful, Terrible, Pathetic Day movie, just because it's a little bit sooner. It could be either one of those, or it could be another one altogether, but I have a feeling it doesn't really matter to Disney that much because they're going to drop it online before it hits in front of any movie. So, and that's the way I see it. Let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Sean O'Brien, who writes, is it me or am I the only one not excited about the upcoming Batman vs. Superman movie? Ever since I heard Jesse Eisenberg and Gal Gadot are going to be playing Lex Luthor and Wonder Woman, I have just not been interested in this upcoming movie. I think they're the wrong actors. To pick Mark Strong would have been a better Lex Luthor. Also, ever since writer David Goyer came out by belittling fans by asking how many people know who Martian Manhunter is and how many of you have ever actually gotten laid, this is the guy writing the film script. Well, I'm more excited for upcoming Marvel movies than anything else, so you won't see me going to Batman vs. Superman in 2016. What are your thoughts? Well, thanks a lot for the email, Sean. And look, seriously, dude, there is nothing wrong with fans voicing their concerns, voicing their displeasure. I think that's great. I think that's the constructive way to do things. But Sean, my brother, my friend, let me challenge you on a couple of things that you bring up in your email. Let's start with kind of the first thing you went to with the Jesse Eisenberg and the Gal Gadot casting. Look, there has been no greater critic. I'm willing to go online and say I doubt there has been any stronger critic of the casting of Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman in the Batman vs. Superman universe, in this DC cinematic universe, than me. Nobody has attacked this decision. Nobody has criticized this decision. Nobody has disparaged this decision for them to cast Gal Gadot more than I have. You all know this. I think it was one of the stupidest moves they've ever done. Jesse Eisenberg, look, I wasn't thrilled with the casting of Jesse Eisenberg, but with Jesse Eisenberg, the dude is a true actor. He is an Academy Award nominated actor. He's the real deal. He's a real actor. So even though, Jesse Eisenberg wouldn't have been my pick and I wasn't excited about the pick, at least was, hey, he's a true, legit, established, well-respected actor. Let's see what he can do. So I wasn't nearly as critical about that at all. But with the Gal Gadot thing, and it's surprising how many people still write to me about the Gal Gadot thing. But look, even though I am the biggest critic in the world, and I thought it was a stupid move and all that kind of stuff, I'm not going to not go see the movie because I think they made a mistake in the casting. You got to go and still get, even if you think it was a mistake, even if you're like me and you think it was a mistake, you've got to give it its fair shot. Let's see. Don't just prejudge it. Be critical. Have concerns, think it was a good decision or a bad decision. That's all cool. But don't make your final verdict until you go to the movie and give it its shot. Do I think the Gal Gadot casting was ridiculous? Yes, but it might work. Let's not close the door on it until we go to the movie and give it its shot. Let's give Zack Snyder as a director a shot to take an inexperienced person like Gal Gadot and let's see what he can mold her into. Let's see what he can do. Look what James Gunn did. I brought this up before, but look what James Gunn did with Dave Bautista. Look, Dave Bautista told me this. So this is not me criticizing Dave. Everybody knows how much I love Dave. Dave is awesome. I will have Dave on any AMC Movie News show anytime he wants. I love that guy. He's awesome. Great attitude, great person. I think he's terrific. That being said, Dave Bautista looked me in the face during one interview that we did for Man with the Iron Fist. It might have been off camera, it might have been on camera. I'll have to take a look. But he said, one of the things he said to me that I respected so much, he's like, look, I'm paraphrasing him, but he goes, I'm not a great actor, and so I feel really blessed that I have a bunch of these movies that have roles that I can fit into, even though I'm not a good actor. Like, who says that? Everybody in Hollywood is about ego. It's like, everybody's going to see how good I am and how good I can do. It is so cool to come across a guy like Dave Bautista who goes, hey, let's face it, I'm not the world's best actor, and I'm just really lucky I have these roles in movies that people are willing to give me because somebody like me with limited acting range can do. And they take a chance on me and let me try that stuff. And I think that kind of attitude is awesome. So you got a guy like Dave Bautista, who is not a true actor, in a Guardians of the Galaxy, but you put him in the hands of a director like James Gunn, and that's what great directors can mold a performance and take an actor and put them in situations that highlight their strengths and hide their weaknesses. Highlight an actor's strengths, hide their weaknesses. And if you watch the way Drax, the Destroyer, comes across in Guardians of the Galaxy, James Gunn never put Dave Bautista in a situation or in a scene or anything like that where his right now weaker acting chops would be exposed. He always gave him dialogue and had him speak in certain situations and scenarios that his monotone, his doesn't take things literally, his just kind of Brutus nature can be highlighted, which Dave can do that stuff, and they hid the harder stuff from him and passed off that harder stuff onto the other actors around him who could carry that stuff. And the end result was a really good performance because the director was great. Let's give Zack Snyder that opportunity to do that with Gal Gadot. Let's see what happens. Be critical of it? Yes. Do I like it? No. But let's not close the door on it until we go to the damn movie and give it its shot. All right. So that's what I've got to say about the Gal Gadot situation. And I've said it before too. I'm turning the corner now that, yeah, I think it was a bad decision, but I have to become now a cheerleader for it because I want Batman versus Superman to be great. So now go Gal Gadot. Now I'm cheering her on. I have to. So I'm cheering her on. I want her to succeed. I want her to do great. And let's see what happens. Now, some of the other things you mentioned that going back to the Lex Luthor thing, you mentioned in your email that you felt that Mark Strong would have been a better Lex Luthor. Well, okay, I love Mark Strong. He's awesome. I even like him a little bit. I like him more than we were just talking about than Jesse Eisenberg. I like him more than Jesse. I think he's a better actor than Jesse Eisenberg. That's not a knock on Jesse Eisenberg. That's just a testament to how good of an actor I think Mark Strong is. But to say he would have been a better Lex Luthor, well, better Lex Luthor how? I mean, you and I, we don't know what Lex Luthor is going to be in this movie. We don't know the kind of character that Lex Luthor is going to be in this movie. So unless we know what kind of Lex Luthor we're going to get, what is this incarnation of Lex Luthor supposed to be? If we don't know that, how can we say what actor would have best suited it? Now, maybe Mark Strong would have been the best Lex Luthor for the Lex Luthor you've got in your head. Maybe Bryan Cranston would be the best Lex Luthor for the Lex Luthor that many of us had in our heads. But none of us know what this Lex Luthor is supposed to be. For all we know, the way that this Lex Luthor in this incarnation is being set up, Mark Strong would have been a terrible decision for him. Bryan Cranston could have been a terrible decision for him. You know, even a Daniel Day-Lewis, who is, arguably the greatest single actor of all time. If we don't know what the character is, maybe Daniel Day-Lewis would have been the worst Lex Luthor possible. So I think when they cast Jesse Eisenberg, I think the first thing that we needed to do is step back and say, this tells us something about the type of Lex Luthor they're going for. Clearly they're going for a younger Lex Luthor, in which case Mark Strong would have been the wrong guy for it. It seems like they're going for a Mark Zuckerberg kind of Lex Luthor, which in today's modern context, if you think about the spirit of what Lex Luthor really was, in today's context, going for a Mark Zuckerberg type of Lex Luthor actually really makes sense. So I'm gonna challenge you, Sean, my friend, my brother. I'm gonna challenge you on saying Mark Strong would have been a better Lex Luthor by saying, well, since we don't really know what this Lex Luthor is, let's step back for a second and wait till we see what the character would have been before we say which actor would have been better. Now, if we watch the movie and you see the kind of Lex Luthor we have, and you still think, yep, this kind of Lex Luthor, Mark Strong still would have been a better Lex Luthor here than Jesse Eisenberg, then that's fair. But let's wait to see the movie. Let's wait to see what this Lex Luthor is first before we jump the gun on that. Now, the third thing you bring up that a lot of people have been very upset about, and I've only really briefly touched on this on our AMC shows before, is the comments, these controversial comments that writer David Goyer put out, talking about Martian Manhunter and She-Hulk and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, some people take that as him belittling the fans. And I'm not going to either agree or disagree with you on that. I think there's a way to look at it that he's not, you know, trying to belittle the fans. I think there's a way to look at it to look like he is trying to belittle the fans and whatever. But to say that I don't want to see this movie now because one of the guys involved with writing the script said something about a comic book character that some of us really like that I didn't like, and therefore I'm not going to see the movie. I think you're overreacting a little bit. Just a little bit. Maybe overreacting is the wrong word. I just don't think that's the right way to look at it. Because if you knew everything about everybody involved with every movie, you wouldn't see any movie ever. And at the end of the day, look, I'm not going to defend Goyer's comments, okay? I'm not defending them. I'm simply saying at the end of the day, what did this one guy, who, by the way, he's not even going to be the screenwriter of True Record anymore. Chris Terrio. They took this Batman v Superman story and they gave it to Chris Terrio a long time ago. And Chris Terrio has now written the screenplay. Chris Terrio is an Academy Award-winning screenwriter. He wrote Argo, which won him an Academy Award, and it won the Academy Award for Best Picture of the Year. That is the guy who is now the true screenwriter on Batman v Superman. It's Chris Terrio. It's not David Goyer. So you're kind of shooting the wrong duck here in some ways. But what I'm going to say is this. At the end of the day with David Goyer, let's say David Goyer was still the true screenwriter on Batman versus Superman, which he's not. And I am not trying to defend, like I said, I'm not trying to defend David Goyer's comments whatsoever. But hear me out. What did David Goyer really do? Did he knock out a woman in an elevator? Obviously, I'm referring to the Ray Rice situation. No, he didn't. Did he run somebody down while drunk driving, which we know a lot of celebrities have done? No, he didn't. Did he, while driving in a car, beat a woman to the point that that her face looked like a pile of meat and she had to be hospitalized? Talking about Chris Brown. No, he didn't. What did he do? He said some things about some comic book characters that some of us really didn't like. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have been offended by his comments. I'm not saying any of that at all. But I think that guy said something I didn't like. About what? About equal rights, about equality in our culture, about slavery, about race relations, about what did he say? Something. What did he say that you hated so much? It was about a comic book character. I'm just, be offended by it if that offended you, because certain things are more important to certain people than other people, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think then draw a line and go, but at the end of the day, he's a dude who's not even the primary screenwriter on this movie anymore, who said something about comic book characters that I didn't like. Do I really want to not go see that movie based on that? Is that my basis for not going to see this movie? And I want to challenge you that I think you need to think about that a little bit. I don't think that's a good reason to not go see a movie. I mean, really, any reason that is yours for going to see a movie or not going to see it is perfectly valid. So I'm not trying to belittle your feelings on it. For me personally, and all I can talk about is from my personal point of view. That's it. For me personally, even if David Goyer came out and said, I think Star Wars is the stupidest piece of crap ever. Now, if he said that to my face, I'd throw a cup of water in his face or whatever. But am I not going to go see Batman versus Superman just because he said something disparaging about my most beloved movie of all time? No. Even if Chris Terrio himself came out and said, yeah, if anybody out there likes Luke Skywalker, you're a loser. Am I going to be offended by that? Yes, I'm going to be offended by that. But am I going to not go see Batman versus Superman because the guy who wrote the script said something bad and offensive about a movie character I really liked that kind of belittled me a little bit? For me, no, that's not a good enough reason to not go see a movie. You know, I'll go back to the Chris Brown thing. We had some discussions around AMC when there was a Chris Brown movie that came out a year or 2 years ago now called Battle of the Year. I think that was the name of it. It was the dance-off movie, Battle of the Year or Big Battle or whatever and stuff like that. And that was right. That was, I mean, and Chris Brown was in it. Chris Brown, the guy who hauled off and beat a woman so badly her face was swollen and cut and lacerated and black eyes and she had to be hospitalized. That doesn't fly with me. You're not a man. Not a man. Chris Brown isn't a man. You punch a woman, unless she's coming at you with a knife, you punch a woman, you're not a man. And I believe, and look, I don't want to get into the politics of it too much. I'm just trying to illustrate the point here for the David Goyer situation. But there was a situation where then this movie of his was coming out called Battle of the Year, Battle of the Century. I can't remember the exact name of it because I don't care. But and I remember we were a few months out from that movie coming out, and I let AMC know this movie coming out, Battle of the Year, we're not talking about it. We're not going to give Battle of the Year or Battle of the Century, whatever the hell it's called. We are not giving it one word of promotion. I have no problem if AMC wants to go and put up posters for the movie in their theaters and play the trailers and promote it in all their other channels. I said, that's fine. That's cool. I'm not saying my feelings on this should be everybody's feelings on this, but these are my feelings on this. I am not promoting this guy, nor am I promoting anything he's going to be in. And that was my stance. So I'm not saying in talking about the Batman v Superman movie that you shouldn't have an issue that is very important to you. And if that line gets crossed, you should avoid the movie if that's the case. Totally get it. Like I said, I had one like that with Battle of the Year. But it is a dude just talking about a comic book character. Maybe that's the line for you. And that's totally cool if that's the line for you. All I'm saying is it's got to be more than that for me. But once again, that's just me personally. Anyway, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on that, Sean. I really do appreciate, even if I don't agree with you, I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts and your point of view on that. Thanks a lot for the question. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question comes to us from James Pierce, who writes, I just found your show 3 or 4 months ago, and I haven't missed a show since. Well, thanks a lot, James. Appreciate that. I especially love your spoilers reviews. I enjoy your X-Men Days of Future Past review almost as much as the movie itself. Almost. My question is, have you all, or would you ever consider doing some kind of event where you have fans join you all for a movie viewing and then have a giant roundtable spoilers discussion afterwards? I've been to a couple of those types of events run by Kevin Smith for his movies, and much fun was had by all. Well, thanks a lot for the question, James. As a matter of fact, about a year ago, we started talking about maybe doing something called, and we just playing around with names, called something like the AMC Movie News series, where we'd pick a couple of great, old, like slightly older, beloved movies. Whether it's movies like, we were going to do Slither. James Gunn, who directed Guardians of the Galaxy, we were thinking about starting it and starting off with Slither. And do it at the AMC Burbank 16, which is where we do some of our shows, is from AMC Burbank 16, that theater there. And we thought about, let's get in, like every 2 or 3 months, we'll pick a movie and we'll play it at the AMC, we'll book out one of the theaters, play it at the AMC Burbank 16, where all AMC Movie News viewers and us, we can go and hang out and watch that movie. Maybe even get one of the cast members or one of the film members or one of the filmmakers, one of the writers, director, whatever, come in and watch it with us and do a spoilers and Q&A and a discussion and a review of the movie. We just got so busy that we kind of let that idea slide under the table. But the reason it's kind of funny that you bring up this question now is because we literally just started talking about it again this past week. Remember I said we had an all-crew meeting of AMC Movie News this past week, and then we all went out to eat? At that meeting, this whole idea came up again. So I've nothing to announce at this point, except to say that as a matter of fact, we are talking about it. and doing something like this, which we think could be fun. Like I said, I'm just not convinced that we are big enough yet, that we have enough fans. Remember, because this would be happening in one city. That's in LA, in Burbank, right? I don't know that we're big enough that we have enough fans, or that we're that big that we could fill a movie theater. I just don't know that we're there yet. Maybe if we add another 100,000 or 200,000 subscribers or whatever, maybe then I'd feel more comfortable doing it with it. But we're certainly talking about it, and let's see what happens in the coming months. Great question. Thank you so much for the idea. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes from Johnny Wimberly Jr., who writes, "Hey, AMC Movie crew, love the show." Well, thank you so much, Johnny. I recently watched the Arnold Schwarzenegger film, The Last Action Hero, and loved it. I didn't love it myself, but Johnny, you're not alone. I know a lot of people who really like that film. I know that it was universally panned at the time it was released, but watching it now, I believe it gets a bad rep. Are there any other examples of 90s movies that when released were not so successful, but deserved more praise? The Rocketeer also comes to mind. Thanks. I love talking about what I think are underrated or underappreciated films, because it gives me a chance to bring up some films that I really like and I really love and give them some attention. Let me start with one that you hear me talk about all the time. That came out in the 90s, didn't do great, and I think it's just like awesome. It's classic. And that is the Tim Allen film, Sigourney Weaver, Alan Rickman, Galaxy Quest. Tony Shalhoub's in it. Anyway, a bunch of other guys. I love Galaxy Quest. It is awesome. It's so funny, not just as a spoof, because it's not really a spoof movie. It's more of an homage kind of movie to the whole Star Trek and Star Trek fandom phenomena, but also just in its pure humor and its fun and its characters and the way they do the story. I just think Galaxy Quest is a great movie. And I love that film. Never got the attention it deserves, especially when it came out. Another one is A Time to Kill. A Time to Kill came out, and you've got Matthew McConaughey, of course, and he's a lawyer defending a guy a black man who's killed two guys who raped his daughter. And Matthew McConaughey is now defending him. It's an incredibly powerful film. And, you always hear me talk about, I've been telling you guys for years that Matthew McConaughey was the real deal, and you all laughed at me, blah, blah, blah. One of the films that always made me firmly believe in the talent of Matthew McConaughey, even when he was making a whole string of crap movies, was A Time to Kill. That, Amistad, a couple of others that Matthew McConaughey did before he fell out of grace with everybody. But Time to Kill is one of the good ones. The other one is the Coen Brothers movie, Miller's Crossing. Now, we think of Coen Brothers, understandably, there are a lot of their films that we all think about. And, Miller's Crossing is a mob movie that kind of came out in the same era that there were movies like Goodfellas or Godfather 2 or things like that coming out that kind of overshadowed Miller's Crossing and kind of drowned it out. And today, it's funny how many people I know that are even big Coen Brothers fans that have not seen Miller's Crossing. John Turturro might give the best performance of his career in that. Gabriel Byrne, who you'll remember him from Usual Suspects. This is a guy that should have been a main Hollywood A-list actor. He's remarkable. I don't know why he never achieved that status, because that dude was fantastic. Just amazing. I mean, I would put Gabriel Byrne on maybe not the Daniel Day-Lewis level, but I would put Gabriel Byrne on like the Philip Seymour Hoffman. I would put him on that level. He's that good. But he never really got the bump, I guess, he incurred. So there's three that I would suggest that if you haven't given them a shot, because I know a lot of people didn't, that are out of the 90s, Galaxy Quest, Miller's Crossing, Time to Kill, check those out. I think those are ones that really stand out to me. All right, we got a couple more here. I'm going to try to get through these quick because we're a little bit over time, but not a big deal. So the next question we're going to get to today comes to us from Thomas. And Thomas writes, "Hi, fellow movie fanatics. If you could combine two different movie franchises, what would it be?" I love that question. I've actually had this question posed to me before. And to me, Like some people, when you ask them, what movie franchise would you mash together, they just want to say their two favorite movie franchises, even if they don't really any logically make sense. I have two movie franchises, and I know I'm not the only one to say this theory, but two movie franchises, not only do I think they're really solid movie franchises, but that they would fit well together perfectly. First is The Matrix. All right? So The Matrix is set in the future. There's a war against the machines where, the machines became self-aware. They rebelled against humanity, and a big war between humanity and machines transpired to the point that humanity was almost wiped out completely. Okay? Now, the movie franchise I would mash with that, Terminator. And here's how it fits. So, at some point, in a desperate battle at some point, a new leader, long after Morpheus is gone and the war between humanity and machines has started off again, new leader, John Connor, rises up. And, or the Terminators decide that, and so he's now leading them and making some progress, and the machines decide to send another machine back in time to kill John Connor or his mother or whatever when he's a little boy, kill his mother so John Connor can never even be born. And then Reese goes back to help him, blah, blah, blah. It's a perfect circle. Terminator and The Matrix. I remember the first time I watched The Matrix, at the end of it, I thought, this feels like a prequel/sequel to Terminator. It totally feels like a prequel/sequel to Terminator. With a little tweaking, you could make Matrix and Terminator fit together as two franchises, as actually one universe, one shared universe. Easy. You can make that happen easy. So, those are the two franchises I personally would put together to be in one big thing. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Rick. Oh, boy. Papa Georgian. Am I doing that right? I think it's Greek. Rick Papa Georgian. Dude, let me know if I butchered your name. And if I have, I'm sincerely sorry. I'm trying my best. Anyway. Hey, AMC, I love the show, my daily fix for movie news, and I was thinking about the Star Wars standalone movies. Instead of seeing a young Han movie or a Boba Fett movie, could we possibly see standalone movies for the new characters, or maybe a Luke Skywalker standalone movie, i.e. the same way as the MCU? You know what? I've thought about that. I've said before, I'm going to go see a Boba Fett standalone movie, sure. I'm going to go see a standalone Yoda movie, sure. But those aren't the ones I want. The Star Wars universe is so big and so vast. I don't see the need to just keep doing the same storylines of the same characters we've always seen. Am I tripping over myself to get to the theater if a Boba Fett movie opens tomorrow? Absolutely I am. Of course I am. It's Star Wars. But it's not really the one I want. I'd rather them do original stuff. Original stories in this great Star Wars universe they've got. This big expanded universe. And I'm not a big fan of prequels in general. There are certainly some prequel films in the history of Hollywood that have worked and that I like, sure. But in general, I'd rather you move forward with a story instead of moving backwards. So, so I know that isn't the exact answer to your exact question, but it's the one I got. Okay, two more questions left. I'm going to get through these really quick. First one comes from Antique Narose, who writes, "Hey guys, I recently subscribed to your channel and really enjoy the show. Thanks so much, man. I really appreciate that. I was just wondering, with Legendary making so many big monster movies like Godzilla, Pacific Rim, and King Kong, do you think Paramount may want to join in the big monster mash with a Cloverfield sequel? Thanks, and keep up the great work." Well, number one, I hope not. I confess and I admit I am one of the guys that I was not a big fan of Cloverfield. I think, you know how sometimes I talk about how Inglourious Basterds is one of those movies that I saw the first time and I really hated it, and then I watched it again like 6 months later. And I'm like, what the hell was wrong with me? Why didn't I like this movie? This movie's awesome, right? Cloverfield to me is kind of the reverse. Cloverfield to me is a movie that I kind of liked the first time I saw it. But then I saw it a second time, and it just kind of irritated me. I ended up not being a fan of Cloverfield. I think the concept was really cool, and this premise they set up was kind of cool, but I didn't think it was executed all that great. And I never felt the narrative of it. And, I think that's the big thing. I never felt the narrative of it. I think they waited too long to get to the monster and to let us actually see the monster. The buildup was great, but I think they milked the buildup a little too much. But for that reason, many others, not really. So, do I even want one? I'm not interested in one, to be frank. I'm much more interested in another Godzilla movie. And do I think they'll do one? I don't think they will. It's not like Cloverfield was a monster hit. Made them money. But it's not like it was an Avengers kind of hit where you absolutely have no choice. You have to make another one. I don't think that's the case. I think they would have done another one by now if they were going to. And they just didn't get around to it. And so I don't want one personally. But that's just me. I know a lot of people who love Cloverfield. More power to you if you do. I'm just saying for me personally, didn't like it that much. So I don't want one, and I don't think they'll do one. But I wouldn't fall over, from shock if they did. So anyway. All right, let's get the last question of the day. And the last question today comes from Alan Green, who writes, "Hello, AMC. You are the only show on YouTube that I watch, and soon AMC Independent will be the second. Don't forget, guys, we got a new show called AMC Indie Spotlight. You can find it on YouTube. We gave it its own channel because it's such a unique show. It's at youtube.com/AMC Independent. Go there and you will find it's where we just talk about the great world of indie films and those smaller independent films. Go and check out. And it's hosted by Amy Rose Eisenbach and Alicia Malone. And we have some fantastic guests. This week's guests include our own Miri Jetikin, and Todd Gilchrist is on there. Anyway, so go check out our AMC Independent channel. I was wondering, how does one win an Oscar for Best Director, but another film gets chosen for Best Picture? Earlier this year, Alfonso Cuarón won Best Director for Gravity, but Steve McQueen's 12 Years a Slave won Best Picture. Am I missing something? Because it makes no sense to me. It actually makes perfect sense. The direction is clearly one of probably the most important element that goes into a film. But even as the most important element, it is not the only element. A healthy heart is an important thing to being a living, breathing, healthy human being. But a healthy heart is not the only thing. You can have a great healthy heart and have major kidney problems, and therefore you're not healthy. It's Best Director is about, okay, which film had the best direction? Best Screenplay is about who had the best screenplay. Best Acting is about who had the best actors and actresses. Best Costume Design, who did this? Best Score had this. Best Movie, though, is about the totality of looking at the whole thing. And which package had the most complete package? I'm going to tell you, I'm completely all for 12 Years a Slave winning Best Picture. But I am also completely all for Alfonso Cuarón winning Best Director. Because let's look at it this way. I just believe as a complete package, 12 Years a Slave was a better film than Gravity. I believe it had a better story. I believe there's just more going on there. It was more emotionally involved. I just think it was a better film. Well, altogether, when you count all the elements, the great direction, the great screenplay, the great dialogue, the great characters, all these things put together, I think it made for the complete package. And I think it was a better film overall than Gravity. That's just my opinion. But with Gravity, there was a challenge there in Gravity, and trust me, the job McQueen did directing 12 Years a Slave is phenomenal. But Cuarón had to take a movie with essentially one character. You've heard me talk about movies like Locke with Tom Hardy or Buried with Ryan Reynolds and say, how tricky it is and how masterful you have to be to pull those one character movies off. Gravity is essentially a one character movie that you've got to struggle with the fact that, there's no opportunity for really great, intense dialogue, just some characters talking to themselves or whatever, or daydreaming or whatever. It's a confined environment. It's all that kind of stuff. It's all those things. And Alfonso Cuarón found a way to take that limited toolbox and make something visually breathtaking and engaging at the same time. It took a master to take all the raw pieces of Gravity and put them together into such a great film. And for that, he deserved Best Director. I firmly believe he deserved Best Director. But that doesn't change the fact that I still believe as a total package, that 12 Years a Slave overall was the stronger film. When you take the directing, the writing, the dialogue, the cinematography, the costuming, the music, the score, when you take all of it into consideration, I still believe 12 Years a Slave was the better film. And so that's why you can get, and you often get at the Oscars, a director win Best Director, but not win Best Picture. I mean, it makes sense because there are two different awards. So, yeah, that's the way I see it. Anyway, guys, that will do it for me on this installment of AMC Mailbag. Thank you so much for joining me today. Listen, don't forget, lots of great films playing at AMC Theaters right now. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com right now for your theater, your showtime, and, of course, your movie ticket information. Don't forget, you want to get your question on AMC Movie Talk or on AMC Mailbag here on the weekends? Email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com, and maybe your question will be on one of our shows. And don't forget, guys, you can follow me on all the various social media networks. I give a lot of announcements and inside information that I don't release on our AMC Movie News channel sometimes. So you can follow me on Facebook, on YouTube. No, not YouTube, sorry. Facebook, on Twitter. That's important. And Instagram, you can follow me just at John Campea. So I hope to see you guys on there. So that'll do it for me for this installment of AMC Mailbag. Thanks so much for joining me. Don't forget to join us again tomorrow. My name's John Campea for AMC Movie News. Thanks for joining me, and until next time, bye-bye.